Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring to you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs. My name is Luis. I'm the founder of Fantom Agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Abhinav. He is the CEO over at Rocket. And first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. It's a pleasure having you, and I'm excited to learn more about Rocket and what you guys are doing. So to start off, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about the company and essentially like what got you in this space?
Thanks, Luis. Really excited to be here. My name's Abhinav. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rocket, which is AI-driven recruiting for startups. We work with a number of clients, all the way from seed companies to high-growth startups like Carta, Robinhood. And the premise is very simple. We help startups hire. And of course, we have some very large clients as well, but the same premise works for them. I've taken a very interesting path towards here. We had a startup before this that was acquired by SurveyMonkey, and we were working in a very different space. We were working in the competitive intelligence space, and I'll tell you more about how we got there in a second. But we realized our biggest challenge was actually hiring. It wasn't the technology, it wasn't the product, it wasn't the strategy, it wasn't often a lot of startups struggle with the team dynamics. It wasn't any of that. We just needed to hire, and we hired something like 12 or 14 engineers in the space of 6 months. So even though I was technically the CEO, I felt like my role was with chief recruiter. And I really realized, I got a lot of respect for recruiters in that time. Boy, they work really hard and are an underappreciated bunch, in the tech world. So first of all, big sort of hats off to that. And one of the things that I realized was, hey, look, I keep doing the same thing again and again. I'm looking at hundreds of profiles. I'm reading the same thing. I'm sending them kind of essentially very similar emails. I'm doing all of this workflow. It's very manual. And I kept bugging our CTO at the time and saying, hey, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? And then one day he just kind of snapped at me and he was like, listen, are we doing the company we're doing, or you want to do a different company? So I was like, all right, I know what you're saying. And he's like, I can't dedicate any engineers to any of your side projects. So anyway, I kept on doing the random thing I was doing. We used every agency out there. We used every platform, you name it. Hired. TripleByte wasn't around then, but hired. We used Indeed. We used Monster. Whatever. Everything, we used them. But it was still hard. And I spent, I think, no joke, 50, 60% of my time on hiring. And I think as a founder, you really should. It really determines the trajectory of your company. But a lot of that time I felt was wasted. So anyway, fast forward, we got acquired by SurveyMonkey, great acquisition for us, for our investors, all of that. We stayed and built the product for a couple of years at SurveyMonkey. And then when we left in 2016, basically the same founding team got back together again and said, look, what are the problems we had in our first startup that we can tackle as a second startup? I mean, a couple of them, how to do kind of dev automation tooling better and a couple other ones. But we kept coming back to this hiring thing. We kept coming back to, boy, did we spend a lot of money. When we went back and looked at our startup finances, we spent the most amount of money to Facebook because we were doing a bunch of ads. So we spent, apart from our salaries, we spent probably like a third of our funding on Facebook for just ads. And then the second biggest thing was Amazon for kind of cloud services. And then the third biggest was recruiting. So we paid agencies, we paid for job ads, we paid for break lists, et cetera. We kind of said, well, it's really hard to compete with Facebook on advertising. It's really hard to compete with Amazon on the cloud front. But man, this hiring thing, we spent a lot of money there, and we really think we could make a better version of that, right? And so that's kind of what got us started in Rocket. We started in earnest in kind of mid-2017, raised a seed round. We were very lucky, as repeat entrepreneurs, we raised a seed round pretty quickly before the product was really even built. And then I've just kind of been on a gradual expansion since then. We're 30 people now in San Francisco. We're in near South Park, and then just opened up our second office
That's awesome.
in Vegas. I'll tell you more about that in a second. So anyway, long-winded answer, but that's how we got into this.
Sweet. That sounds like a super interesting. And that's one of the things that you typically see, right, with really like any sort of startup. Like you'll see some sort of issue come up and then you decide like, I'm going to do that as well because I don't see anyone else doing it. Or I see a big space where essentially I can come in and do something not just for the monetary value, but also valuable, right? Where it's going to help a lot of people actually focus on what their main focus is, which is awesome. So I really like that. I think you cut off there for a little bit. I think you're back. But yeah, you're good. And so how long has Rocket been around?
So we've been around for about 2.5 years now.
Okay. And how many clients do you currently have?
We have more than 100 clients today. So, we literally just signed a client actually before I got on the call with you. So our
Nice.
newest client today is Hub House. They help, I don't know if you've heard of them or not, but they sort of make better housing by sort of having, allowing people to have different models of housing in cities. So
Mhm.
really cool companies. So we're looking to get started by helping them on their growth team. So anyway, it was just on my mind because I literally signed the contract before I walked in. But
Very
yeah,
cool.
100 plus clients, been working with many of them since the early days. So for example, we just helped one of our earliest clients, actually I think they were our first client, Simple Legal, this really cool company out of Mountain View that does legal operations work. They sort of have better workflows for legal operations because I
Mhm.
didn't realize it at the time. The legal industry is super antiquated. They use a bunch of faxes. Everything is done over email manually. So they had this cool kind of technology, and they were a YC company also. They have this cool technology to sort of improve and streamline operations, not just in internal legal departments, but also between the legal departments of companies and outside agencies and all of that.
Mhm.
So anyway, they were our first client. We just helped them hire a DevOps engineer like last week. So many of our clients we've been working with kind of all this time.
So when you were, essentially like recruiting on your own, what was, aside from doing all the manual work, right, as a recruiter in that case, what is the second biggest issue when actually finding the right talent?
I think in my mind, the second biggest issue is trying to understand fit. And this is, I think, where human empathy plays a massive part, right? Like if you get on the phone and you talk to someone, you can get a good sense of, by asking them the right questions, why are you interested in this role? What makes you qualified? Why is it that, if our client is a small 20-person company, why do you want to join a 20-person company while you're currently working at a 1,000-person company? Have you thought about how that's going to be different? Have you
Right.
thought about what that impact is on a bunch of stuff, right? Your kind of what your title might be, what your day-to-day looks like, what kind of career trajectory you're going to get, what your hours are going to be like, what your compensation is going to be like, right? I think we don't quite realize it, and people talk about it all the time, but work is such a huge component of our life
Yeah, I mean
today.
it's everything,
And
right?
I, for example, yeah, I mean, I probably see my wife less than I see some of my work colleagues. And my co-founder, I've been working with him since 2011 when we met at Zynga, and our wives joke sometimes that we see each other more than we see our respective spouses. So
Yeah.
that fit is really important. Now the challenge is there's not enough time to be able to talk to every single candidate, right? And I'm sure you see this all the time, and a lot of companies see this all the time. They barely have enough time to talk to all of the candidates that apply to them on their website,
Mhm.
let alone go decide, hey, I'm going to look at 1,000 profiles and I'm going to try and decide who's the right fit that I should spend time sort of engaging them and following up. And I think that's one thing that our technology, we're making lots of sort of leaps and bounds towards is if you get a profile and based on where they work and when they went to school and what they say in their profile and kind of the career trajectory they have, trying to determine if there's a good fit. And I think the most experienced, the most talented recruiters, this is what they do really, really well. They just do it all up there, and it's not like they're consciously
Right.
thinking about these
Right.
20 processes. It's kind of just happening for them. Like it's kind of like Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink. They just see it and then they get it, right? Now, what we're trying to do is how do you kind of capture that human intuition? So how do you capture it so that when our algorithm looks at a profile for a particular client, let's say Simple Legal in this case, and we know what are all the feedback that we've gotten from their VP of engineering, David, how can we incorporate all of that? And then when we look at a profile, try to approximate, hey, what would David Liu think about this profile? Would he like this person? Is this person going to be hands-on like David wants? Are they going to have the right Kubernetes experience based on everything we know about their profile, the kinds of companies they're working at? Are they working at some big company that is likely to sort of have very good processes? Or are they more at a startup that's maybe the processes aren't as defined, but the pro you get is they're probably working with all the newest technologies. They're probably using open source. They probably have a much more agile environment. And then do they have the right mix? And then a little bit around, do we think it's the right time for that person to move? If they're kind of, where are they in their career? Where they're in compensation terms, all of that. So that's what we're trying to sort of almost automate and make easier for recruiters.
Right.
And I don't think the human judgment is going to go away anytime, but we
Right.
can help humans get their job done faster, right? So we have a team of 20 recruiters here, a couple more in Vegas in our new office there. We're just trying to help them become faster, better, and beat all the other recruiters out there.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Now, when building the company and actually growing, right? Like you just opened up a second office, so it's clearly like the trend is upward, and that's good. What are essentially some of the best acquisition channels right now for you?
So we've been really interesting. So, we've done, for our previous companies, we've done a lot of Facebook advertising. Of course, at Zynga, where I met my co-founders, we did a lot of viral marketing. Zynga is really well known for. I'm sure you got several in the early days of Facebook. Everyone on the planet probably did. What's been interesting this time is that we've done a little bit of tests into some of those channels, but actually what we've found that works really, really well for us this time is just referrals from existing clients. So we actually have 0 salespeople today. The closest thing to a salesperson in the company is probably me and my co-founder, and we barely spend time on it, and certainly not much outbound. So a lot of it comes from, we work with a company, they have a great experience with us, and then if someone asks them, hey, like, is there someone you could recommend? And I think one of it is the tribe of sort of startup founders and operators is pretty small, right? If you're a head of HR, you're necessarily talking to other heads of HR in the industry, whether they're partners, frenemies, enemies, whatever it is, there's kind of a pretty tight ecosystem. And I think, people tend to sort of share partners that they've worked with that work really well. And so that's where a lot of our business comes from. So for example, we just recently started working with a client out of New York called Republic, and we were introduced to their CFO by I think the accounting manager or controller at another of our clients called Noon in New York. So that's just kind of how that introduction came about. So we found that to be kind of our, best working channel today.
Right. So there's no like paid advertising going on or anything like that. Is there any other form of marketing at all? Are you putting out content? Are you doing like emails to, maybe like a list of people that you have or something like that, or just absolutely relying on, referrals for now?
We've tested all of those little things, right? Like we've tested some Facebook ads, we've tested some Google ads, we've tested some outbound email, we've tested we've tested some content as well. There's some blog posts and so forth. We haven't quite found that any of them really worked at the level that we wanted them to be. Now, some of it might be because we're not at that level of sophistication. We're not big enough, right? We're a 35 person company here. So it might be that in the future they work, but for now they haven't quite worked for us. So our solution has just been kind of this kind of client driven. One of the nice parts about it is also, people talk a lot about sales qualification or marketing qualified leads. We actually don't need to do that because all of our leads come very, very qualified, right? So when one of those leads pops in, it's usually so high quality that me or my co-founder Arjun can actually drive that right away.
And that's because they're coming essentially from somebody that's been through that same issue. So like it's me, let's say that I was a company, then I'm having that issue and I'm talking to a different company about it, and they just send me over to you. So
exactly. That's exactly it. And for that pain, they understand you, they understand what the problem is. They also just know that, if it worked for them, then there's a good chance it will work for you. And kind of, there's a little bit of a bonding on, hey, what are all the reasons why other agencies we've tried in the past didn't work out, right? And you're like, oh yeah, no, I totally get it. Like these guys don't flood you with resumes. They don't send you poor quality candidates. They don't just waste your time. They don't give up if they haven't found the right person in 3 to 4 weeks. They sort of just keep whatever the things are that our clients like about them, and many of those things are, we find that they really share them with each other. So one of the biggest tools we use actually is NPS. I don't know how familiar you are with kind of Net Promoter Score.
Yeah.
So I think to some extent, the biggest growth driver that we have is our NPS, right? And we track that really religiously. My co-founder will survey our clients on a very regular basis. We track NPS scores. Anytime any client gives us a score that's not a 9 or a 10 on that NPS score, we're sort of almost right away, like, hey, what's going on? Why is it that we have a client that's not happy? What can we do better? We'll reach out, try to make it right every single time. And I think that's just the strategy that's paid off.
Got it. That's awesome. What is the single biggest challenge that you're currently facing while growing the company?
I think the single thing is as we grow the company, when we were smaller, I knew every client, right? I jumped on every client kickoff, or me or one of my co-founders. We had that client relationship. We could step in if there are problems. Now we're getting to the point where, we have so many recruiters, so many clients that I don't know all of them, right? Don't
Right.
know the relationship. I don't know their particularities. I don't know what they're looking for. I don't know how they came to us. So I think just scaling the company, it's a very common challenge. I think scaling the company to survive without the co-founders is our next step. And I don't mean that in a way that we're going away anywhere. We're of course still
Right.
here. Is able to, document the processes, to be able to sort of duplicate them, to have playbooks for everything. How do you do a client kickoff call? How do you get client feedback? How do you make sure that if you've stumbled on something that you can recover from that, and so forth? And then how do you train and sort of manage the next set of employees that are joining the company? I think is pretty critical. So that's number one. And I think the second one, and that one, by the way, is going to be very interesting because we're about to have a baby, my wife and I, in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be stepping out for
Some time out.
I'm going to be stepping out for a couple of weeks. So, I think particularly my mind is focused on that. I just want to make sure everything goes while I'm out. The second thing I think for us is the next phase of strategy growth for the company is opening new offices. So I mentioned we just opened our Las Vegas office. We hired 3 awesome recruiters there. We're starting to work with some awesome clients there, like Play Studios, and then in discussions with some of the casinos, like Caesars and MGM and so forth. But the challenge is, now that's another entity that's not here in San Francisco, right? And of course, we can't be there all the time. And we've kind of flown back and forth just to get them set up on our technology, our processes, our way of doing things, sort of quote unquote the Rocket way. And just making sure that Heather, who's the location manager there, Heather and her team can now start executing independently, right? And then we give them the right support that they need, but also the right independence so that they can continue delivering that. And so the thing that I really am curious about and want to prove out is how fast we can get that office operational, how fast we can get that office in a place where it doesn't need as much from us, so that we can go open the next office and the next office and the next office. And because our strategy over the next sort of 5-year horizon calls for us to open, anywhere from 50 to 75 offices in the U.S. And so it's a really critical part for us so that we can almost quote unquote have a template for how do you open an office.
Totally.
And I think it's not a problem other companies haven't done, but just getting it right takes time.
Totally. And well, I mean, maybe other companies have done in the past and whatever, right? But it's not your company, so to speak. So like, it's always going to be something different. Even if you copy exactly what the other players have been doing, it's not going to go the same. So things change, and there's obviously like a lot of different variables. So it's got to be a little bit different. What is, if you could, put your finger on a mistake essentially that you've done as you've built Rocket, what has that been, and what did it teach you?
I think probably the biggest mistake that we made is not target executive hiring in the very beginning. And the reason we didn't target executive hiring in the beginning was very simple. I think we looked at it and said, well, most of our clients, they want to hire one VP of engineering, but then they want to hire 10 engineers underneath him or her, right? And so it's going to be a much bigger volume play to target the 10 engineers underneath the one VP of engineering. So if the VP of engineering salary is much higher, let's say it's 30 to 60% higher, it's just one of them. And so that was kind of the mindset. And so that was one. I think the second part was, as we were starting up, we didn't have as many super experienced recruiters that could necessarily chat to that VP of engineering, or we would have had to go hire a completely different kind of recruiter profile, right? The recruiter who can talk to an engineer is very different than a recruiter who can have that same kind of conversation with a VP of engineering. I think fast forwarded by a year, so we kind of realized this mistake about earlier this year. So we probably spent about a year or so kind of going down on that path. Was, yes, it's never going to be a very large part of our business, but I think it's really important to have executive hiring. And the reason it's really important to have executive hiring is for a few reasons. Number one, many teams will scale the team after they've hired the leader. So when they bring in the right head of product, or when they bring in the right head of engineering, then they're going to hire the rest of the product team, or then they're going to hire the rest of the engineering team. So we often miss out on knowing when that's going to happen. So if you have an executive hiring team, you are intuitively just aware better from a client perspective of when that hiring is going to start, so you're in better positioned to assist them with that. So kind of from a sales strategy, from a client strategy perspective, it's useful. I think the second benefit it gives us is that if we help hire the head of engineering, then we have a unique insight into what she or he wants for the rest of their team, right? And so we can be better positioned to be a partner with them for their subsequent searches. So even if they continue using us and they were hired by somebody else, let's say an executive recruiting firm or whatever, it's not that they may not use us, it's just that we don't have that same insight about what drives them. We don't have that same connection with them. So that's kind of that second part. And then I think the third part is sometimes clients perceive, and this is more of a perception problem than anything else, but sometimes clients perceive that you don't have expertise in a domain if you're not hiring for some of the senior leaders in that domain. And when the truth is actually the opposite, right? And so I think if I had to pinpoint something, that would be the thing. And of course, now we've sort of starting earlier this year in 2019, kind of changed that up. We brought in some senior people. We actually basically acqui-hired a firm that was in the accounting and finance space and G&A space, or brought in some senior leaders who can do some of these executive retained searches. And we're seeing that part of the business, A, do well, and B, sort of some of the hypotheses that we had on the beneficial effects it would have.
Very cool. Now, a couple more questions here on the business topic. What is, I guess, actually, if you could pick out a company and study it and essentially follow like their footsteps, which company woed that be?
I think, well, that's a very tough question in this day and age, because there's so many startups that are doing just amazingly. Anytime I think about our clients, one kind of satisfaction that I have from running this role is that we just get to meet so many founders and so many cool companies that, all the time I'm talking to my co-founder and I'm like, wow, if I wasn't, we weren't doing this startup, we would love to work for this company, because they're doing just such awesome things. They're, for example, one of our clients, Robinhood, I don't know if you have a Robinhood account or not.
Yeah.
It's just awesome, like what they're building, and it's so great, putting kind of the ability to buy stocks without any fees, and it's just incredible stuff. Similarly, Carta, another one of our clients, really just making it easy for startup founders to manage their cap table, to kind of manage employee equity, all of the rest of it. So we really get to see some cool companies. But I think the one that I think is probably one that's on my mind to emulate is actually Compass, kind of the real estate agent company. And part of the reason is that their model is very similar to ours, and I think they've just had flawless execution over the last sort of 5 to 6 years in terms of, I think they also realize that just like recruiters have an empathetic connection to employees and candidates, real estate agents have an empathetic connection to homeowners and buyers, right? And technology in Silicon Valley might think, oh, we're gonna get rid of the real estate agents because we don't fully understand why they deserve their 6%, and that seems like a lot of money. I think, and so a lot of these previous generation of companies, were aimed at around disintermediation of the real estate agents. I think Compass realized really, really well and executed well against that is just, hey, no, the real estate agents are critical in the process, but they don't have the time that they could have, right? So what if we built really awesome tools for them? What if we hired, built them the best platform that could exist so that they could do their job better and do what they do really well, which is actually talking to their clients and showing them houses and helping them understand whether to buy house A or house B, or helping their, the seller understand, should I take this offer? Should I wait out for a higher one? Should I take the cash offer? How do I do my staging, et cetera, and focus less on all the operational part of the business and all the rest of it that they probably don't even enjoy as much. And now, I don't know what it's like in Arizona, but in San Francisco, I feel like a lot of the great agents have now just adopted Compass, right? So they're no longer from whatever agency they're with, they're now just a Compass agent. And of course, the company's growth and financial results and all of that have followed from that as well. So yeah, definitely a big inspiration to us.
Very cool. Have you ever found someone to recruit for another company that you thought, this person's really good and I almost want them to work for Rocket?
Yeah, so we tend to have kind of this pretty confidential process because what ends up happening is we have a lot of recruiters that are working for different companies, right? And so what we don't want is, and we deal, by the way, with a lot of confidential information. So some of our clients might tell us, hey, listen, we're going to be expanding into this office or into this product, so we need to help you hire. But hey, that information is confidential, so please, and so we tend to segregate out all our sort of clients and so forth and recruiters pretty tightly so that people don't have that sort of conflict of interest and there isn't any inappropriate information that's shared.
Right.
But at the same time, we do use our own technology and doc food it for our own hiring. So
Right.
actually, one interesting that happened was that somehow the recruiter internally that was using all our same tools and all of that ended up targeting the same candidate that was in process with one of our clients. And of course, I didn't know any of this at the time at all because we just try to keep it separate. We just try to keep it. But what ended up happening is that the candidate actually went through the final rounds both with us and with other companies. And the candidate actually ultimately chose us. So, and it was, and of course, I found out after the fact, and one of our clients actually, that it happened to was a little bit like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, you're not using this as a way to just steal our kind of pipeline. And it was a tough conversation because I understood where he was coming from. Like, if I were in his shoes, I would also have that same question. And I just kind of took him through the process of like, look, I didn't know about this. That's just not how we're running it. It just happens to intersect on the same candidate and so forth. And by the way, it means we're doing something good because that same process is the same kind of people. So ultimately, if the candidate chose us, it's probably a good thing for you guys, not for any other reason, but I really believe people should get to work where they're most passionate, where they feel the most connection. I think it sounds a little bit corny, but our mission is to try to find people the best home from a right. And I think if you just think about it, right now you're an entrepreneur working for yourself, but at some point when you had a job, if you don't have the best job, if you don't have the right job for you, you can waste it's easy to be at a job for 8 hours, but actually be tuned out, right? And maybe 2 hours of work and the rest of the time, you're kind of just passing the time.
Totally.
And you can be at a company where you can be working 10, 12 hours, and even then you're having fun and contributing so much, right? And so the gap between those two states is so massively high that sometimes I feel like if we could really get everyone in the world into the job that's right for them.
Do what they want and enjoy.
Yeah. Just imagine what the productivity of the world would do, what that would do to the world if that happened, right? Now, it's really hard. People don't often know what they want. So I'm not saying the challenges are easy. I think people can sometimes join something and realize it's not the right thing for them. And of course, different people want different things, right? And that's kind of why, someone might come in and say, oh, an atmosphere is too intense, or another person may look at that and say, hey, we're not moving fast enough, and so forth. Mm-hmm. But if you could somehow find that fit, I think that would be great. So coming back to it, it sort of just took him through the angle of, hey, look, yes, it sucks that person chose us instead of you, but to some extent it's good because maybe he's just more passionate about this, your problem space, and that's better. Then you might as well hire someone who's just as passionate about your space. And we don't care about just hiring you someone who joins. We care about someone who joins and then has an amazing impact on that client, right? So recently, one of our recruiters got really excited because someone we had placed at a client, had their 1 year anniversary at that company. I think it's called Jobbox, as the name of the company. And the CEO of the company, or I think it was the VP of engineering, posted something on LinkedIn about how hiring that person was so great, such a good decision. It had such an amazing amount of impact over the last year and so forth. And the recruiter at Rocket, Anjanette, was so excited about that. She liked that LinkedIn, shared it, and so because it's just a feeling of, hey, I'm touching someone's life and making a positive contribution. And particularly over long periods of time when they're sort of blossoming in their new role, as a recruiter, you feel a ton of ownership and a ton of sort of like an element of like, hey, I contributed a little towards that happening. Right?
And it's not just that too, right? Like it's obviously like it's that, but also whatever they're doing to that company and what that company is providing to the world essentially. So there's a lot of different things that you can look at and say, like I definitely I'm the reason why that happened pretty much. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. And the closest parallel that I can think of it is, so I originally, I'm from India. I my dad was diplomats. I grew up around the world before coming to the US. But in India, there are sort of these, professional aunties that go to all these weddings, and the only thing they're focused on is who are all the single men and all the single women here, and who can I pair with who, and then they take it's funny, like many years down the line, if it ever succeeds, they take such an amount of pride on that, like, oh, yeah. I got you guys together, yes, see, and all these kids and everything that's come out of that's all due to us.
Right.
In a funny way, our recruiters feel that same way about some of these candidates after they've joined the company and just had an amazing contribution. It's kind of a.
Sorry, I think you could cut off there for a little bit again. I think you're back though. But yeah, I think that's awesome, and I think people should take pride in that. The little things are definitely, they essentially they're what keep us going every single day. So that's awesome. If you had one piece of advice for someone starting a software company or someone in the startup space, what would that be?
I would say just start it. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I see a lot of people who think about starting companies, and frankly, I myself, I'm in that boat. When I was an undergrad, I was an electrical engineer, and I really thought about starting a company my senior year. Of course, I was 21 at the time, and I don't fully remember, but I think I just got scared. I just kind of got sucked up into well, I don't know what will happen if it doesn't work out. I don't know anything about companies. I've never even worked at a company before. I was one of those kids that never had a summer job in college. I was kind of just doing research. So I kind of got essentially nervous and scared, and I didn't do it, right? And I think typically, even today, I see a lot of people who send me business plans and things like that, and sort of ask, I'm like, okay, are you doing it? And they're like, no, I'm still at my old job, and I'm still like working, and I'm kind of doing it on the side. And my kind of view on that is, look, every person's financial situation is different, and I get that. And there have been amazing entrepreneurs that have done stuff on the side. I always remember the story of Mint.com. I believe he literally coded it and built that whole company while he still had another job, if I remember correctly. And of course, it's been a massive success. But at the same time, I do feel like if you can, and if your financial circumstances afford it, and that is, of course, a very privileged position to be in. But if you can, then go all in. Don't sort of think that you can do it on the side. It's okay to take that leap. And frankly, I would argue today's economic environment, knock on wood, is probably one of the best times to do that. With record unemployment, look, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is you spend a year, it doesn't work out, you learn a lot, you come back, you take another job, and you'll probably bring a lot more to that job from your experiences, right? And I think most employers, most enlightened employers will see that positively. Will see that as someone who can take a risk, someone who's ready to make a commitment, someone who, you learn so much, and you kind of get this ownership mentality. When I first became a CEO founder at my first startup in 2014, I used to take the trash out at the end of the day. Right? That is not something I've done in any of the companies that I've worked for, whether it was at Singapore or McKinsey, because I just kind of didn't see it as my job, right? Not that there's nothing wrong with it, but you left at the end of the day and you didn't do that. When you're a CEO founder, you leave at the end of the day, you're typically probably the last person leaving. As you're turning off the lights, you're like, oh wait, this garbage is still here. So what do? You roll up your sleeves, you take that garbage out, you clean the office, you whatever. So I think that mentality just gives you all the right tools to succeed. And I really believe that. One of the things I love about America is that, no job is too small in America. And that was a great attitude that I learned, frankly, for the first time in the US versus kind of, where I was growing up. Because, there's dignity in work, and doing all of that yourself really teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you humility as well. And so, yeah, that would be my advice. Long-winded answer, sorry, but go for it.
I love it. I love it. And what is your favorite book?
My wife makes fun of me all the time because I keep taking this book to reread again and again, but I really love Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman.
Okay.
It's a bit of it's not an easy book to read, and but I do think it has a lot of great applicability to startups, and just the ability to kind of analyze your own thinking and how you make decisions and how to make better decisions. I think is very helpful.
Yeah, those books are really good. I actually have not read that one, but there is one that I like a lot, and it's actually right here. The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Really good. It talks about thinking time and how people, they don't take enough time to actually think about what they're going to do, about the decisions they're going to make. It's usually just like a, 3-second thing, and you do whatever it is that comes to your mind. But essentially, you take out an hour a day and just write down questions in your mind, and kind of answer them, and stuff like that. And you can write questions by questions, and just go on. But it's really cool. It's a good book, so I'd recommend reading that one as well, if you want, obviously.
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't know how much free time I'll have in the next couple of weeks, but when I get back from my paternity leave, that's when I kind of want to get back into reading.
Definitely. And where can people find you online?
Sorry, say that again.
Where can people find you online?
Not that much, actually. I have a kind of Twitter account, but sort of been, as I've been doing the startup thing, I've been kind of pretty busy about that. But generally, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, partly because of the nature of my job, partly also I find it a very interesting platform because it's kind of this, I think you've had a lot of blowback on some of these social media platforms, but LinkedIn, because it's such a kind of work-oriented, professional-oriented environment, has sort of escaped that. And I think
there's no value to it.
There is value to it, but at the same time, I feel like I sometimes now start approaching it in the same way that I would a Facebook many years ago, in the sense of keeping touch with close acquaintances and stuff. They're not friends; they're more professional acquaintances, people I work with, and so forth. But yeah, and easiest way to contact me is just drop me a note there or send me an email. You can find my email pretty easily.
Great.
Just send me an email.
Awesome. And last question: do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, what got you started into doing what you're doing?
It's actually started as a side hustle. I want to say about a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I've been working in agencies for a while, just working with agencies, with clients and stuff like that, advertising. And then I decided to take the leap of faith, maybe like 6 months ago. And then I wanted to get in front of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs. And I figured, the best way to do that is to actually give them a platform to share their story at the same time. And obviously, that's a way for me to create connections and relationships that are going to essentially be more than just a cold email to you or something like that to reach out, right? So that's kind of how it all started. And so far, so good.
Awesome. Well, look forward to it. And next time you're in San Francisco, drop me a line. We'll grab a coffee.
Definitely. And thank you so much again for being on here today. It was a pleasure having you. And for anyone that's watching, please subscribe, like, share, whatever it is that you want to do. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Luis.
Thank you. Bye-bye.